Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to make chicken franchise, Jim's favorite chicken dish. We're going to use 3 chicken breasts. They're approximately a pound. We're going to use 2 eggs, or maybe 1 if you can get away with it. Then you're going to need a half a cup of chicken broth. You can either use bouillon and water or from a carton or a can. Then you're going to need a half a cup of white wine dry, or this is actually sort of on the sweet side, which is really nice as well. You're going to need some flour for dredging plus 2 tablespoons. Some garlic powder is optional. You'll need 2 to 3 lemons depending on their size, and about 2 tablespoons to a quarter cup of chopped parsley. I'm going to serve this with thin whole wheat spaghetti, but you can do it with angel hair pasta if you can have white pasta. What I'm going to do is, this is technically a 30-minute meal or less, but because I'm demonstrating it to you, it's going to be a little bit longer. But what we do is we put the pot of water on the stove for the pasta, and you get that started. I was having a very floopy, overwhelming day. It's just one of those days, you know, like I couldn't get out of my own way. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up the parsley. I just took some sprigs off. This is curly leaf parsley. We've always grown up using Italian parsley or flat leaf parsley. It's just not as easy to come by in this neck of the woods, but the curly works fine because they both kind of taste the same. They're just about the texture when you chew them. Believe it or not, the flat leaf parsley is just a little less crunchy is the way I can say it, but if you chop it up fine enough, you really don't notice the difference too much. All right, and just gonna get a little bowl to put it in, you know, your little mise en place. I think we talked about that once before. It's basically a French term that not the literal translation, but it basically means having everything ready in its place, and I think that's what it means, in each in its place or something. But then the next thing we're going to do while the water boils is we're going to go ahead and slice our lemons. We have the cutting board out. Nope, I'm going to pound my chicken. I really was not getting it all together. But basically what you're going to do is you want to chop your parsley, and then you want to take one of your lemons, and you're going to make half of it sliced and half of it you're going to use for juicing. But I like mine lemony, so I'll tell you what we're going to do. I have these 3 chicken breasts, and you guys have seen me prep chicken before, and I'll link those videos in the description box down below. But while it's in the bag, I go ahead and I pound them out. Chicken franchise is generally a very, very thin chicken cutlet that is fried basically in flour, you know, dredged in flour and then fried in the a little olive oil. I'm going to go ahead and just pound these away. I'm using the large divots on the mallet, but you don't have to make them completely flat and see-through. You want them to have some tooth to them still, and we're going to repeat that with all 3 of them. Then what we want to do is we want to set them aside, and we want to set up our dredging station, or cut my lemons. I don't know, I really couldn't get it together, as I'm telling you. Usually I just use 1 egg, but I wanted to show you guys that you could use 2 eggs. Sometimes makes it a little easy, but I don't like to waste food. So I probably could have got away with 1 egg. Again, that depends on how flat you made your chicken, because you want your chicken to be coated in egg. We're going to do flour, egg, and flour, and you want to make sure your chicken is coated. So maybe it's better to have extra than to not, you know, worry about wasting it. The one I'm going to use is I'm just going to take there's no measurement of flour because it's a dredging station. So basically I'm going to use a half cup measuring cup, and I'm going to put that on the plate. Told you I was all over the place. Now I've decided it's time to cut the lemon. So now I'm cutting this lemon in half, and we're going to juice 1 half, and then we're going to use the other half for slices. Jim's going to take it and juice it. But like I said, I like mine with a little extra juice. It also depends on how much you get out of it. You should yield like a quarter of a cup of juice, but it depends on the lemons and how juicy they are. And you guys know the trick that if you put the lemon in the microwave for 15 to 30 seconds, it makes it more juice come out of it. But we're just going to show you the 2 juicers that we have and the methods we're going to use. I actually have a reamer as well, but I don't use the reamer. So that's a half a cup of chicken broth, and I just added the half a cup of wine in the measuring cup, and I do that so I have less dishes, because trust me, there's going to be enough dishes with this meal. So this is one of these lemon squeezers that you basically put the lemon in the opposite of the way you think it might go. And you just squeeze the heaven out of it. But my arthritis was kind of bothering me today, so I didn't really get the best juice out of this, but Jimmy helped me squeeze it in and we got everything we could. And then this one is just basically these old-fashioned reamers, and it collects the pits. So I just set that aside, and I'm going to slice this half into slices as well. So now I was telling about the flour. I take a half a cup of measuring cup flour. Then you would traditionally salt and pepper the flour, but we don't use pepper around here. So I do salt and garlic powder on the flour. Generally, chicken franchise does not have a garlicky taste to it, but we just add a little something, and it doesn't really make it taste garlicky. It just makes it taste really good. So now we're salting. The water's come to a boil, so we added salt in the pasta. My assistant was going to do that for me, but he had a little problem. And now I'm putting olive oil in the pan. It's the recipe, original recipe always says like a quarter cup of olive oil, but it depends on your pan. You want to make sure you get a nice little coating down there. And not too much because you don't want it to be, we're going to mix the sauce right in here, so you don't want it to have so much oil in it, you know. And now we're going to dredge. I'm going to show you guys. I mix the flour. Basically, you salt and garlic the flour. And I'm blending it around with a fork just to get it really incorporated evenly. There we go. And I'm reserving some. You need about 2 tablespoons. I'm reserving it in a small dish because what we're going to do later is roll the butter in the flour, and that's how we thicken the sauce. But I'm just getting my dredging station up next to the pan because it's going to go flour, egg, flour, and then straight in the pan. And I like to start with the biggest cutlet. The reason I start with the biggest cutlet is because this first cutlet is going to cook longer than the other two. So I start with the biggest one, then I go to the medium, and then the next smallest. And this way they're all done around the same time. That's just a little tip, okay? Now I'm showing you guys how to use a fork method to avoid club fingers. That's what we used to call them, club hand. Basically, I have a fork for flour and a fork for egg, which I actually needed the fork for the egg to beat the eggs, and I needed the fork for the flour to stir the flour. So it's not like they're new dirty forks. But I'll show you eventually. I give up and I just end up using my hands because that's what we always did. Now, we've done cooking in olive oil before, but when you know the olive oil is hot enough, when it starts to shimmer, then you know it's just hot enough. You don't want to wait too much. When it starts to smoke, then you'll get like your chicken will get too burnt before it gets cooked. And I originally have it on high, and then I lower it to medium high. On my burner, on this big burner on the right, it is at the 6th position, and that's 6 out of 8. So I just continue with the other two, and again, it goes flour, egg, flour. You want to make sure that all of your flour does get egg, and that all of your egg does get covered in flour. And it's important that all of the chicken gets covered, just because you don't want to have any of the, you really want that crispy coating, but you don't want to have any of the juices coming out. All right, now you got to wash the club hands. That's the only thing about club hands, is you got to wash them now. I should have turned the camera. Oh, there we go. There's my helper. Thank you. Now you got to let them cook for a few minutes. And again, since the first one was in there, you want to do anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes per side. And if you use whole cutlets, whole breasts and not fillets, then you want to make sure you cook them even lower and even longer and a little lower. My goodness, the words. So you turn them over, and that's the beautiful, there you go, I'm adjusting the color because that's the color you want. You want that beautiful golden brown. All right, and my pan, the way my oven, it has like one part of the burner cooks a little faster than the other, so I turn my pan 180 degrees every so often. The last cutlet that I put in there at the top wasn't golden on the one side, so I waited. And that's okay. They'll still be, there you go. Oh, look how beautiful that cutlet is. And while this is all happening, I am preparing, cleaning up and that stuff. Again, because I don't have the patience. I don't want to do it when I'm done. Once I'm ready to eat, I want to sit down when I'm done eating, put the dishes in the dishwasher, and sit down and relax. So while this is waiting, what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2 tablespoons of butter, and I know I didn't mention it in the ingredients list, but 2 tablespoons of butter you're going to roll in that bowl of flour, and you want to coat that in flour. And I just leave it in there until I'm ready, and that's why mise en place works really good with this. And I'm not just saying chicken Francese because it's French and mise en place is French, but that's really a good tip for this. See, that last cutlet came out just at a little too much of a dark spot, which did change the color of my sauce. However, it did not change the taste of my sauce. Now, if you burn your chicken, then you might want to start with a fresh, clean pan and then cook your lemons in a little bit of olive oil, that kind of thing. But I know to me, it's not going to be objectionable. So what you do is you put the slices of lemon on the frying pan, and I use the lemon slices to deglaze the pan a bit. You just want to get them a little color on each side, and then pour the cup of liquid. Well, I say cup of liquid, but it's a half a cup of chicken stock, a half a cup of white wine, and then the juice of a half to a whole lemon. But it's really about a quarter cup of lemon juice. And you definitely want to use fresh lemon juice for this. I have to tell you, I did use real lemon juice, like not from a squeezed lemon one time, and it just totally was not the same. It was not even close to being the same. And I'm not one who actually, like, I like shortcuts, so I'm not one who's like a stickler for it has to be this way. But with this, you definitely want to stick to the fresh lemon. So now we're going to cook this down. I've turned the heat back up again because I want to reduce it just a few minutes, nowhere near like a half an hour or anything, but just like 5 to 10 minutes. And again, that's depending on, I think we talked about this once before as well, the size of your pan. Because the size of your pan determines how much liquid there is, height-wise. And obviously the surface area will boil, okay. Let me put it this way. A cup of water will boil faster in a frying pan than it will in a pot. How's that? Does that make sense? So depending on the size of your frying pan will depend on how fast you get it to reduce. But you just basically want to reduce it down. And it's really about the flavor. It's a very concentrated flavor. You start to smell, for me, it's when I start to smell the wine. That's when I know it's time to add the butter. And all you're going to do after that is you're going to take that little pat of butter that we left in the flour, and I get my whisk ready. I got to get a little whisk ready. So once this is reduced down, we take the little pat of butter and we're going to put it in there, and then we're going to whisk it up, and that's what's going to help thicken the sauce, plus give a little buttery gloss to the sauce as well. And again, like I said, because I burnt that I had a little tiny bit of the flour burnt on that piece of chicken, it has changed the color of this sauce to brown. It has not changed the taste. It is not objectionable. I didn't way burn the chicken, which caused like a way burn smell taste to the sauce. It's just ever so slightly of caramelization. And how black those lemons look, that color comes right off, goes back into the sauce and thickens and darkens the sauce up. But again, if you're serving this at a party or company, you don't have to do this in the same pan that you fried the chicken in. You can make the sauce separate. What you want to do if you're going to make the sauce separate is just heat up a tiny bit of olive oil to heat your lemons, then pour in the liquid, then add the butter and flour, and then thicken it. And you can make your sauce separate. And this way will keep your sauce looking white and lemony. Or light in color. But when you make it in the pan, it turns brown, but it doesn't make a difference. It's still delicious. Okay? And then you just want to whisk it up. Make sure you get up all the clumps of flour. Get all that butter melted. Get that flour cooked off. And this takes almost no time. Okay? Especially in a pan this size. So here is where I'm knocking all of the burntness off of those lemon slices. Now you can, if you want to, add fresh lemon slices at this last point, like take out the cooked ones and add the pretty ones and cook them up just for a minute. But I don't care. I love it. It's not objectionable to me. I go ahead and I lay the slices. I usually get at least one on each, but I love extra lemon, so I can see me and Jim get a little extra lemon. And Mom doesn't really care for it as much, and normally I leave it off of hers, but for the video purposes and for demonstration purposes, I laid it on top there. And then you just pour all of this sauce, and you want to do this you don't want to do this too far ahead because you really want to keep that crispy chicken. So we just do this right before we serve, and I'm just using the rubber spoon. You let it scrape out all the goodness, because that sauce is also going to go on the pasta for me and Jim. Mom just likes butter on hers when I serve this, but Jim and I use that sauce on our pasta. And my mouth is watering. You wouldn't think I just ate it going over this voiceover, because it was so good. My mouth is watering doing this voiceover for you. And then you go ahead and sprinkle the parsley on top. Now you can cook some parsley, the last stage, just after you add the butter and whisk the butter through. You could throw some parsley in there to heat it up, but it's not necessary. I just like it as a fresh taste on top. That's the way I really love it. And we go ahead and we drain our pasta, because now it's at the point where the pasta is done. This Barilla takes 6 to 11 minutes or whatever, and it's perfect. So we're going to plate that. Now, Jim forgot to add butter to the pasta, so it's kind of all stunk together. He also didn't rinse it. You could cool it. You can rinse it under cool water and it'll stop cooking. But I went again and I fixed it for everybody. So I served up some pasta. And that's how we like it. We like it with the... we love it with broccoli. It's how we used to traditionally get it when we order it from the restaurant. But, a big chicken cutlet with some lemon slices on it. You pour some of the sauce on your pasta, and then fresh broccoli on the side. And that is it. Now, I'm going to show you, Jim's going to peel off his lemon, but I'm going to show you that I like to squish my lemon down onto my sauce. I love the way the fresh lemon tastes. And then I throw it on top of my pasta and I eat around it. And then I'm going to eat my tons of broccoli. And that's it. So I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. I'd love to hear if you try it. Let me know if you like it. I know you guys do share lots of times when you make these recipes, but hopefully you do. You give this a thumbs up. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share with friends and family. Anybody you know who's interested in making chicken Francese, or chicken French, my friend called it. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe, and when you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a video. And as always, you take care. God bless. See you next time. Bye. Bon appetit.